The holographic display aboard the UES Constitution flickered with dozens of red dots as Imperial ships continued to emerge from hyperspace. Admiral Jessica Blackwood stood with her hands clasped behind her back, her weathered face illuminated by the tactical display. 27 years in Earth's Navy hadn't prepared her for this moment, but it had taught her how to hide her concern from her crew. "Sir, we're counting 300 Imperial vessels, and still rising," Lieutenant Rodriguez reported from his station, voice steady despite the implications. "Their energy signatures are, well, they're off the charts." Blackwood nodded, studying the formation of the alien fleet. Their ships were beautiful in a terrifying way, all sleek lines and gleaming metal, each one larger than anything humanity had ever constructed in space. The smallest Imperial vessel was twice the size of the Constitution, her flagship. "Incoming transmission, broad spectrum," Communications Officer Park announced. "They're not even bothering to encrypt it." On screen, Blackwood ordered, straightening her uniform jacket. The holographic display shifted, revealing a humanoid figure with iridescent scales and eyes that seemed to contain galaxies. High Commander Zextar of the Imperial Fleet, according to the automatic translator's subtitle. "Primitive vessels of Earth," the alien commander began, mandibles clicking in what Blackwood recognized as amusement. "Your species' remarkable ascent from planetary confinement has attracted the attention of the Galactic Empire. We offer you the opportunity to join our magnificent civilization. Under our guidance, of course." Blackwood felt her jaw tighten, but kept her expression neutral. "This is Admiral Jessica Blackwood of the United Earth Space Navy. We're honored by your attention, High Commander, but Earth is a sovereign world. We'd be happy to discuss diplomatic relations as equals." The alien's laughter needed no translation. "Equals? Your ships still use reaction mass for propulsion. Your weapon systems rely on primitive projectiles. Allow me to demonstrate the gap between us." Zextar made a gesture off-screen. "Observe your outermost dwarf planet's largest moon." Blackwood's tactical display lit up with warnings as energy readings spiked from the Imperial flagship. A lance of purple energy, coherent as a laser but somehow wrong in ways that made her eyes hurt, lashed out across millions of kilometers. Charon, Pluto's largest moon, didn't explode so much as unravel, its matter converting to energy in a cascade of quantum effects that Earth scientists would spend years trying to understand. The bridge crew stared in horror, but Blackwood was already processing the tactical implications. The weapon's energy signature, its propagation speed, the effect on Charon's mass, all valuable data points. More importantly, she noted the 2-second charge-up time and the way the Imperial ships in front of the flagship had adjusted their formation to avoid the beam's path. "Impressive demonstration, High Commander," Blackwood replied, allowing a slight tremor to enter her voice. "Given this display of power, I request 24 hours to consult with Earth's government regarding your generous offer." Zextar's expression shifted to what the translator labeled as patronizing satisfaction. "You have 12 hours, Admiral. Use them wisely. Remember Charon's fate when making your decision." The transmission cut off. The bridge was silent for a moment before Blackwood turned to her crew. "Lieutenant Commander Chen, did we get good sensor readings on that weapon's discharge?" "Yes, sir. Full spectrum analysis is already being distributed to the fleet." "Excellent." Blackwood's expression hardened. "Send coded burst transmission to all ships. Initiative Ghost Protocol is in effect. Time to show these Empire folks why you don't judge Earth's Navy by the size of our ships." As her orders went out, Blackwood watched the tactical display with grim satisfaction. The Empire had made 3 critical mistakes. They demonstrated their superweapon without understanding human sensors' capabilities. They'd assumed Earth's scattered fleet movements indicated fear rather than purpose. And most importantly, they'd underestimated humanity's capacity for warfare. "Helm, plot course for Lagrange Point 3, she ordered. "Let's give them a good show of running scared. And someone get me Admiral Martinez on quantum comm." His submarine warfare expertise is about to become very relevant to space combat. The first pieces were moving into place. The Empire was about to learn that humanity's greatest military advantage wasn't technology. It was several thousand years of experience in finding clever ways to beat superior forces. Admiral Blackwood stood in the Constitution's war room, surrounded by holographic representations of her fleet commanders. The massive display table showed Earth's naval forces apparently scattered across the solar system in what looked like panicked disarray. To untrained eyes, it appeared the humans were running scared. The reality was far different. Status report on Operation Hornet's Nest, she commanded, watching as Admiral Martinez's weathered hologram stepped forward. The submarine warfare tactics are adapting beautifully to space, Jess. Martins grinned, his salt and pepper beard failing to hide his excitement. Third and fourth flotillas are already running silent behind Jupiter's electromagnetic wake. The Empire's sensors haven't picked up a thing. They're too busy watching our retreating ships to notice the real deployment. Colonel Sarah Wright's hologram flickered as she contributed from the Mars Defense Station. Our quantum computers have been analyzing their approach vectors since they entered the system. You won't believe this, Admiral. Their combat algorithms are remarkably rigid. They fight like they've never faced a serious challenger. Overconfidence, Blackwood mused, zooming in on the Imperial fleet's formation. They're maintaining textbook positions. No adaptation, no creativity. They expect us to either surrender or fight conventionally. She allowed herself a small smile. Let's use that. The war room's atmosphere was tense but focused as Blackwood outlined the next phase. Commander Jackson, status on the solar interference pods. Jackson's hologram nodded sharply. All pods are in position near Mercury's orbit. On your command, we can flood the entire inner system with enough electromagnetic noise to give their sensors fits. They'll still see our decoy ships clearly. We're making sure of that. Perfect. Blackwood manipulated the holographic display, highlighting key positions. The Empire thinks they're watching our ships scatter in fear. Instead, we're executing the largest coordinated naval maneuver in human history. Lieutenant Rodriguez's voice came over the comm. Admiral, incoming transmission from the Imperial flagship. They're laughing at us, sir. Their tactical officers are sharing clips of our disorganized retreat on their equivalent of social media. Let them laugh, Blackwood replied, her eyes hard. Psychological warfare cuts both ways. The more they underestimate us, the better this works. She turned back to her commanders. Status on the kinetic weapon platforms. Captain Lisa Chen's hologram stepped forward. All platforms are masked as debris and in position. The Empire didn't even scan them. They're so focused on energy weapons that simple rocks with engines don't register as threats. Time check, Blackwood announced. We're 7 hours into their 12-hour deadline. Let's review the final positions. The holographic display shifted, showing the true positions of Earth's forces overlaid with what the Empire's sensors were seeing. The difference was striking. Where the Empire saw scattered, fleeing ships, the reality showed a complex web of positioned forces ready to spring shut. One concern, Admiral. Martinez interjected. If their sensors are as advanced as we think, won't they eventually see through our stealth systems? Blackwood nodded. That's why timing is crucial. We don't need perfect stealth. We just need good enough stealth for long enough. Remember, we're not fighting a sustained war here. We're teaching them a lesson about underestimating primitive species. The war room fell silent as new data scrolled across their displays. The Empire's fleet was shifting, adjusting their formation to better surround Earth. They were still completely unaware that human ships were already inside their perimeter, hiding in plain sight. They're proceeding exactly as predicted, Blackwood observed. Their tactical doctrine is advanced but inflexible. They've never needed to think outside their technological advantage. She straightened, addressing all her commanders. We have 5 hours until their deadline. Continue current operations. Let them see exactly what they expect to see. A frightened, primitive fleet running out of options. As the holograms winked out, Blackwood remained studying the tactical display. Humanity's ships were now perfectly positioned for the next phase. The Empire's overwhelming technological superiority was about to meet something they'd never counted on: humanity's endless capacity for innovative warfare. "Send word to all ships," she ordered. "Phase 2 begins in 4 hours. Let's show them why Earth's Navy still studies battles from centuries ago. Sometimes, the old ways work best." Energy spike from the Imperial flagship. Lieutenant Rodriguez called out as the 12-hour deadline expired. The Constitution's bridge crew tensed, expecting another demonstration of power. Instead, High Commander Zextar's image appeared on the main display, his alien features arranged in what the translator identified as smug anticipation. "Your time has elapsed, Admiral Blackwood. I trust you've come to a reasonable decision about Earth's surrender." Blackwood stood from her command chair, adjusting her uniform with deliberate slowness. "Actually, High Commander, we have come to a decision." She paused, checking the tactical display one final time. "But first, I'm curious. Have you noticed you've lost track of 40% of our fleet?" The alien commander's expression shifted slightly. "Your primitive vessel's power signatures are fluctuating. Clearly, your inferior technology is malfunctioning under stress. This only proves—" "Check again," Blackwood interrupted, something she knew would irritate the protocol-obsessed Empire. "Lieutenant Rodriguez, initiate Ghost Protocol." Across the solar system, dozens of Earth vessels suddenly altered their energy signatures. The metamaterial hulls, developed from centuries of submarine stealth technology, shifted to reveal ships that had been hiding in plain sight. The Imperial tactical displays, which had been showing a scattered, retreating human fleet, suddenly lit up with vessels inside their own formation. "Impossible." Zextar's translator struggled to keep up with his rapid clicks and whistles. "Our sensor net is the most advanced in the galaxy. You can't hide ships inside your formation." Blackwood allowed herself a tight smile. "Humanity's navies learned stealth warfare in Earth's oceans, High Commander. Do you know how deep our oceans are? How dark? How much pressure exists down there? We've been mastering the art of hiding ships since before we had electricity." The Imperial fleet's formation began to break as commanders reacted to the presence of human ships throughout their carefully arranged positions. Earth vessels emerged from Jupiter's radiation belts, from behind Mars' orbital stations, and from what appeared to be empty space. "Basic naval doctrine," Blackwood continued, watching the chaos unfold. "Never assume you can see the entire enemy fleet. On Earth, we learned that lesson in 1941 at Pearl Harbor. We never forgot it." The Constitution's tactical officer, Commander Hayes, called out, "Enemy vessels attempting to lock weapons on newly detected ships. Admiral, their targeting systems are struggling with our metamaterial hulls." As expected, Blackwood nodded. "They rely too heavily on energy signatures for targeting. Lieutenant Commander Chen, signal all ships. Execute attack pattern Delta." Earth's Ghost Fleet sprang into action. Ships that had been hiding in plain sight now demonstrated why humanity had positioned them so carefully. From point-blank range, they launched their first attacks, not with energy weapons, but with specially designed kinetic projectiles that the Imperial shields had been proven ineffective against during the Karen demonstration. "Admiral," Rodriguez reported, struggling to hide his grin, "the Empire's fleet communications are in chaos. They're calling us space demons. Apparently, ships aren't supposed to appear out of nowhere like this." Blackwood watched as the Imperial formation continued to deteriorate. Ships designed to fight at long range with energy weapons found themselves in close-quarters combat with vessels that could seemingly vanish and reappear at will. The Empire's tactical doctrine had no protocols for this situation. "Signal from Admiral Martinez's group," Chen announced. Silent running was successful. Their entire submarine warfare battle group is now inside the Imperial fleet's minimum effective firing range. "Tell Martinez he's clear to begin his attack run," Blackwood ordered. and get me a channel to High Commander X-Star." The alien commander's image appeared, his earlier smugness replaced with barely contained rage. "Your tactics are dishonorable," he spat. "This is not how civilized species conduct warfare." "No, High Commander," Blackwood replied calmly. "This is how successful species conduct warfare. And we're just getting started." She nodded to Chen. "All ships, commence Phase 4. Let's show them why humanity's primitive electronic warfare capabilities are anything but primitive." As the transmission cut off, Blackwood watched the tactical display light up with new attacks. The Empire was about to learn another lesson about humanity's naval prowess, one that would be taught with computer viruses and electronic warfare suites rather than stealth. The Empire's advanced targeting systems were the first to go. Centuries of electronic warfare expertise, refined through countless Earth conflicts, proved devastatingly effective against networks that had never faced serious digital threats. Ships that cost trillions of Imperial credits found themselves fighting blind as human viral packets tore through their defense algorithms. "Status report on Operation Digital Storm," Blackwood commanded, watching the tactical display as Imperial ships began firing at shadows and echoes. Lieutenant Commander Chen's fingers danced across his console. "Their network architecture is surprisingly vulnerable, Admiral. They've prioritized processing speed over security. No hardware-level firewalls, minimal encryption. It's like they've never faced a serious cyber attack." "Show me." The main display shifted to show a cascade of system failures across the Imperial fleet. Emergency protocols designed to counter energy weapons and kinetic strikes proved useless against weapons they'd never conceived of. Computer viruses evolved from decades of cyber warfare. "Sir," Rodriguez called out, "intercepted communications indicate the Imperial ships are losing control of their targeting systems. Their automated defenses are. They're starting to target each other." Blackwood allowed herself a grim smile. "Chaos in the ranks, just as planned. Deploy the next phase." Across the battlefield, Earth ships released clouds of specially designed ball bearings, each one coated with metamaterials that played havoc with Imperial sensors. The tiny projectiles, moving at orbital velocities, began shredding through energy shields calibrated to stop plasma weapons and laser fire. "Admiral," Communications Officer Park interjected, "we're picking up increasing panic in Imperial communications." Translating, "They're saying the humans are using invisible projectiles. They don't understand why their shields aren't stopping simple metal spheres." "Because they forgot the basics of physics," Blackwood replied, watching as Imperial ships began breaking formation to avoid the deadly clouds. "Their energy shields are designed to deflect plasma and radiation, but a simple ball bearing moving at orbital velocity, that's just mass times acceleration. Old school." The Constitution rocked slightly as nearby Imperial weapons fire went wild, their targeting systems compromised by human electronic warfare. Earth ships darted through the chaos with practiced precision, their crews well-trained in fighting under electronic warfare conditions. "Sir," message from Colonel Wright's Cyber Warfare Division, Chen reported. "They've successfully accessed the Imperial fleet's maintenance protocols. They're forcing emergency reactor shutdowns on multiple capital ships." Blackwood nodded. "Send congratulations to Wright's team. And get me a visual on High Commander X-Star's flagship." The main screen shifted to show the massive Imperial command ship. Its once precise energy weapon fire had become erratic as human electronic warfare suites forced its targeting computers to see phantom ships in every direction. The mighty vessel was reduced to firing blindly, its sophisticated systems turned against it. "Their entire command and control network is compromised," Rodriguez announced with professional satisfaction. "They're trying to revert to manual control, but their crews, they've never trained for this. They don't know how to fight without their automated systems." Blackwood watched as more Imperial ships fell into disarray. They developed their technology along a single path: bigger ships, stronger energy weapons, more powerful shields. They never considered alternative forms of warfare. She turned to her tactical officer. Status of our kinetic weapon platforms. All platforms report ready, Admiral. The Empire still hasn't detected them. Their sensors are too focused on looking for energy signatures. Launch the first salvo. Let's add some conventional warfare to their electronic nightmare. Across the solar system, disguised platforms began launching tungsten rods at a fraction of light speed. The simple kinetic weapons, nearly invisible to Imperial sensors focused on energy emissions, struck with devastating force. Energy shields meant to deflect plasma fire prove useless against solid projectiles moving at relativistic speeds. Admiral, Chen's voice carried a note of disbelief. The Empire. They're sending out a general distress call. They're asking for reinforcements. They're saying they've encountered demons who turn machines against their masters and strike with invisible weapons. Blackwood stood from her command chair, watching as humanity's combination of electronic and conventional warfare continued to tear apart the Imperial fleet's formation. Send word to all ships. Prepare for Phase 5. It's time to show them what Earth's naval doctrine can really do when we fight up close and personal. The battle was far from over, but the Empire was learning a harsh lesson about assuming technological superiority meant tactical superiority. Earth's Navy was about to teach them several more. The Imperial dreadnought, Eternal Glory, dwarfed every human vessel in the fleet. At 20 kilometers long, it was a floating city of war, bristling with energy weapons that could vaporize small moons. Its commander had positioned it at the heart of the Imperial formation, confident in its impenetrable defenses. That's exactly what Admiral Blackwood had been counting on. All ships, execute Operation Pack Hunt, she ordered, her voice carrying across the encrypted channels to Earth's scattered fleet. Hit and run protocols are in effect. Martinez, your wolf packs have priority targets. Aye, Admiral. Martinez's voice crackled through the comm. Just like Leak Gulf. They'll never expect us to get this close. The Constitution's tactical display lit up as Earth's ships began moving in precise, practiced formations. Smaller vessels, barely 1/100th the size of the Imperial capital ships, darted forward in coordinated groups of 5. Each group moved with a synchronization that spoke of countless hours of drilling and centuries of naval tradition. Sir, Rodriguez reported, Imperial commanders are laughing at our approach. They're calling our ships tiny vermin in their communications. Let them laugh, Blackwood replied, watching the first wave close in. Helm, bring us in. Show them why you don't need size when you have skill. The wolf pack struck with devastating precision. Lessons learned from World War I, submarine warfare proved devastatingly effective in space. Small, agile Earth ships darted through the gaps in Imperial formation, exploiting blind spots in their massive opponents' firing arcs. Each pack coordinated their attacks, striking from multiple angles simultaneously. First blood. Chen called out as the wolf pack dubbed Timber executed their attack run. Direct hits on the Eternal Glory's propulsion array. Their shields were focused forward. They never expected an attack from below. The massive Imperial ship's engines sputtered as precisely targeted kinetic strikes disrupted its power distribution. Other wolfpacks pressed the advantage, each group of 5 ships working in perfect coordination to overwhelm their enormous target's defenses. They're trying to adjust their formation, Rodriguez reported, excitement creeping into his professional tone. But their ships are too big. They can't maneuver fast enough to cover each other. Blackwood nodded grimly. The bigger they are, the harder they fall. Standard naval doctrine. Mobility beats size every time. She turned to communications. Signal Wolfpack Stalker. The Imperial flagship's starboard defense grid is overcompensating. Hit their port side now. The battle transformed into a deadly dance as Earth's smaller ships demonstrated the advantages of their size. Imperial capital ships, designed for long-range bombardment, found themselves unable to target opponents operating literally in their shadow. Each wolfpack struck with different tactics, some disabled weapons, Others disrupted communications, and a few particularly daring groups landed marine boarding parties on the massive vessels. Admiral Park's voice cut through the controlled chaos of the bridge. Intercepted transmission from the Imperial flagship. High Commander Zextar is. He's demanding to know where we learned to fight like this. Send him the following response, Blackwood ordered, allowing herself a small smile. Tell him. Ask the ghosts of the Japanese Imperial Navy about the Battle of Lake Gulf. Human naval doctrine was written in blood long before we reached the stars. The Constitution shuddered as an Imperial dreadnought's wild shot passed nearby. On the tactical display, another Wolfpack executed a perfect attack run, their coordinated strike overwhelming another capital ship's defenses. Update from Martinez's group, Chen reported. 3 more Imperial capital ships disabled. Their crews are abandoning ship, the Empire. They've never seen anything like this. They don't know how to fight ships they can barely target. Blackwood watched as the mighty Imperial fleet began to break apart. Ships designed to fight in rigid formations found themselves isolated and surrounded by swarms of smaller vessels that struck with devastating precision before disappearing back into the chaos of battle. All ships, prepare for Phase 6, she commanded. The Empire's about to learn another lesson about human warfare. We're not just good at fighting small. We know how to use physics itself as a weapon. As her orders went out, Earth's vessels began repositioning for their next demonstration. The Empire was about to discover why studying planetary mechanics and gravitational dynamics was required learning at Earth's naval academies. All ships, initiate Operation Slingshot, Blackwood commanded, watching as her fleet began its most daring maneuver yet. Remember your gravity calculations, 1 decimal point off, and you'll be pulling more G's than your hull can handle. The tactical display transformed into a complex web of gravitational vectors as Earth's vessels began executing maneuvers that the Imperial fleet's targeting computers classified as physically impossible. Centuries of operating in complex planetary systems had taught humanity how to turn gravity itself into both weapon and shield. First wave, mark. Lieutenant Commander Chen called out. A group of Earth ships skimmed Mars' upper atmosphere at precisely calculated angles, using the planet's gravity well to slingshot themselves at speeds that made the Imperial targeting systems throw up error messages. They emerged from the maneuver directly behind an Imperial battle group, striking before the massive ships could reorient their weapons. Sir, Rodriguez reported, Imperial tactical officers are. They're having fits. Their combat AI can't predict our trajectories. It keeps saying we're violating the laws of physics. No, Blackwood replied, allowing herself a tight smile. We're just better at physics than they are. Helm, prepare for the Hohmann Special. Show them why Earth's Naval Academy requires advanced orbital mechanics. The Constitution led the next wave, diving into a complex series of maneuvers that utilized the gravitational fields of multiple bodies. They corkscrewed through space in patterns that looked chaotic, but were precisely calculated to build up tremendous speed while remaining virtually impossible to target. Multiple Imperial ships firing, Park announced. They're missing by kilometers. Their targeting systems are designed for linear combat. They can't adjust for gravitational assists. Earth's fleet moved like a swarm of fireflies, each ship's path influenced by careful calculations of every significant mass in the solar system. They curved around planets, used asteroids as gravitational turning points, and transformed apparent retreat into devastating attack runs. Wolfpack Tesla reporting success, Chen called out. Used Venus's gravity well to accelerate to attack velocity. Imperial Dreadnought never saw them coming. Complete drive system failure. The Empire's mighty fleet, with all its advanced technology, found itself unable to cope with opponents who turned basic physics into an art form. Their ships, designed for straightforward energy combat, couldn't track targets that used celestial mechanics as defense. Message from Admiral Martinez. Communications announced. His group just completed the Jupiter slingshot. approaching Imperial flagship from 4 different vectors simultaneously. Enemy targeting systems are. They're showing mathematical errors. Blackwood nodded. Their computers are trying to plot straight-line intercepts. They never considered that space combat would involve calculating gravity assists from multiple bodies simultaneously. She turned to her tactical officer. Status on Operation Newton's Revenge. All ships in position, Admiral. The Empire still hasn't realized we've been herding them into the sweet spot. The tactical display showed the truth. Earth's seemingly chaotic maneuvers had been slowly forcing the Imperial fleet into a position where they'd be caught between the gravitational influences of Mars, Earth's moon, and Earth itself. It was a complex orbital trap that had taken weeks to calculate. Imperial ships attempting to break formation, Rodriguez reported. Their engines are firing at maximum thrust, but they're fighting against gravity fields they didn't account for. Their navigation computers are. They're crashing, sir. They can't handle the gravitational complexity. Send to all ships, Blackwood ordered. Execute final approach vectors. Let's show them why every naval officer has to master celestial mechanics. Earth's vessels moved in perfect synchronization, each one using the combined gravitational fields of nearby celestial bodies to achieve speeds and angles that Imperial ships couldn't match. The mighty Empire fleet found itself trapped in a web of gravitational forces, unable to effectively target the human ships that seemed to dance through impossible trajectories around them. Admiral, Park's voice carried a note of satisfaction. We're picking up Imperial communications. They're calling for a ceasefire. High Commander Zextar is personally requesting to speak with you. Blackwood straightened her uniform. Put him through. But keep Operation Newton's Revenge ready. The Empire needs to understand that humanity's mastery of physics isn't just a tactical advantage. It's a fundamental part of who we are. The battle was nearly won, but Blackwood knew the next phase would be crucial. It was time to show the Empire that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't technology or tactics. It was their ability to turn an enemy's strength against them. High Commander Zextar's image appeared on the Constitution's main display, his alien features twisted in what the translator identified as a combination of rage and disbelief. Behind him, his bridge crew worked frantically to manage their compromised systems. "You primitive," he began, but Blackwood cut him off. "Before you continue, High Commander, you should know that your fleet is currently caught in what we call a gravitational crossfire. Even if you restored all your systems right now, you'd need advanced celestial mechanics calculations to break free. Calculations your computers apparently can't handle." The alien commander's mandibles clicked in frustration. "This changes nothing. Our primary weapon remains charged. One shot will reduce your planet to..." "Lieutenant Rodriguez," Blackwood interrupted calmly, "show the High Commander our final deployment." The tactical display updated, revealing dozens of previously hidden quantum-entangled deflector arrays positioned throughout the solar system. Each one was calibrated specifically to the energy signature they'd recorded during the demonstration at Charon. "You couldn't have..." Zextar's voice trailed off as he realized the truth. "The entire battle. You were herding us into position. Every retreat, every desperate maneuver," Blackwood confirmed. "We needed your fleet exactly here, at exactly this angle, with your main weapon pointing precisely where it is now." She allowed herself a small smile. "We call it the Aikido Gambit. Using an opponent's strength against them is a very old human martial art." The Imperial flagship's sensors finally detected the quantum web surrounding them. Their tactical officers began shouting readings that made Zextar's alien eyes widen in genuine fear. "If you fire that weapon," Blackwood continued, "our deflector array will catch the energy beam in a quantum loop. Physics is fascinating. With the right arrangement of deflectors, we can redirect every joule of energy right back at your fleet. Your own weapon would vaporize your entire command." "Impossible," Zextar sputtered. "Your technology level. You couldn't." "We couldn't." Blackwood raised an eyebrow. "You've spent the last 3 hours watching us perform impossible maneuvers. Your fleet is in chaos because we did impossible things with gravity and electronics. Are you really willing to bet your life that this is the one impossible thing we can't do?" The Constitution's bridge fell silent as Zextar consulted frantically with his scientific advisors. The translated fragments of their conversation told the whole story. They couldn't be certain the quantum web wouldn't work exactly as Blackwood claimed. "Admiral," Chen reported quietly, "Imperial ships are powering down weapons across their entire fleet." They're standing down, sir." Blackwood nodded, keeping her eyes locked on Zextar's image. "High Commander, I'm prepared to offer terms. They're quite reasonable, mainly involving the Empire recognizing Earth's sovereignty and establishing diplomatic relations as equals. You would show mercy." Zextar's translator struggled to convey his mix of emotions. "After we threatened your world?" "Mercy is strength, High Commander. Earth's history has taught us that victory without wisdom leads to future conflict. We prefer to turn enemies into allies when possible." She paused. "Besides, we've already demonstrated everything we needed to demonstrate." The alien commander was silent for a long moment. When he spoke again, his tone had changed completely. "The Empire. We have not faced defeat in 10,000 years. We have forgotten it was possible." He straightened. "I am authorized to accept your terms, Admiral Blackwood. The Empire recognizes Earth as an equal." "Excellent choice," Blackwood replied. "We'll transmit coordinates for a proper diplomatic meeting. And High Commander, you might want to tell your superiors that humanity is willing to share some of our tactical innovations. For a fair price, of course." After the transmission ended, the Constitution's bridge erupted in contained celebration. Earth had not just survived its first interstellar conflict, it had won decisively. "Send word to all ships," Blackwood ordered, finally allowing herself to relax slightly. "Stand down from combat stations and get me a channel to Earth Command. They'll want to know that Operation Teaching Moment was a complete success." As her crew carried out her orders, Blackwood studied the tactical display showing the thoroughly outmaneuvered Imperial fleet. Sometimes the best way to prevent a war was to prove you could win it. Earth had done exactly that, and in doing so, had earned humanity a place among the stars. 2 weeks after the battle, Admiral Blackwood stood in Earth's orbital diplomatic station, watching through the observation window as Imperial shuttles docked alongside human vessels. The formal surrender ceremony had been completed days ago. Now came the more interesting part, the future. "They're here, Admiral," Lieutenant Rodriguez announced, now serving as her aide. "The Imperial diplomatic delegation and their military observers." Blackwood turned from the window to face the arriving party. High Commander Zextar led the group, his bearing noticeably different from their first encounter. Gone was the contemptuous superiority, replaced by something approaching genuine respect. "Admiral Blackwood," he greeted her, performing a complex gesture that the cultural advisors had explained was a sign of profound respect in Imperial society. "We have reviewed the battle data extensively. Our military council has questions." "I imagine they do," Blackwood replied with a diplomatic smile. "Shall we begin?" The meeting room was a stark contrast to their last encounter. Instead of tactical displays showing fleets in combat, the screens now showed training scenarios and technical specifications. Imperial officers sat beside human naval commanders, their initial discomfort giving way to professional curiosity. "Your tactics," one Imperial officer began, their translator struggling to convey their excitement. "The way you combined ancient naval doctrine with space combat. The wolf pack formations, the gravitational calculations, the electronic warfare. Our analysts say it should not have worked." "But it did work," Blackwood replied. "Because we never stopped learning from our past. Every war, every battle, every engagement in human history taught us something. We brought all of that knowledge with us into space." Zextar leaned forward. "The Empire's military council has approved an unprecedented request. We wish to send our officers to train with Earth's naval forces. To learn your Perspective. Approved. Blackwood responded immediately. On one condition, we want Imperial instructors to teach at our academies as well. A mutual exchange of knowledge. Your energy weapon technology, our tactical doctrine. Your shield systems, our electronic warfare expertise. The meeting continued for hours as details were hammered out. Imperial officers asked increasingly specific questions about human naval history, particularly fascinated by submarine warfare tactics and their space adaptations. "There's one thing we still don't understand," Zextar admitted near the end. "Your quantum deflector web. Our scientists say it shouldn't have been possible with your technology level." Blackwood allowed herself a small smile. "Would you believe me if I said it wasn't?" The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The Imperial officers stared at her in shock. "You bluffed." Zextar's translator crackled with disbelief. "The entire web was." "Oh, the deflectors were real," Blackwood clarified. "But redirecting your main weapon. We had no idea if it would work. We just needed you to believe it would." Sometimes the threat of a capability is as effective as the capability itself. Instead of anger, the Imperial commander burst into what his translator identified as laughter. "Magnificent. Your species turned deception itself into a weapon. We never considered the psychological aspect of warfare. That's why this exchange program is so important," Blackwood explained. "You have technology we can learn from. We have perspectives you need. Together, we can both become stronger." As the meeting concluded and the Imperial delegation prepared to leave, Zextar held back for a private word with Blackwood. "You know," he said quietly, "some in the Empire questioned my decision to surrender. They called it cowardice. And now they call it wisdom. Your demonstration showed us something we had forgotten. That true strength comes not from superior technology, but from innovation, adaptation, and the wisdom to know when to turn an enemy into an ally." Blackwood watched through the observation window as the Imperial shuttles departed, carrying the first group of officers who would train with Earth's forces. The battle had been won not just with tactics and technology, but with the understanding that sometimes the greatest victory comes from what happens after the fighting stops. "Rodriguez," she called to her aide, "send word to the academy. Tell them to prepare for their new students. It's time to show the galaxy why Earth's naval tradition is something special." The stars stretched out before them, no longer a barrier between civilizations, but a bridge. Humanity had earned its place among them, not just through force of arms, but through the wisdom to know what to do with victory once it was achieved.